With the intention of seeing his officers unfiltered, a new police chief enters his precinct disguised, but when a white police officer spits in his face and brushes him off as irrelevant, it sets the stage for a shocking discovery that will unsettle everyone in the room. On a sweltering August morning, newly appointed police chief Darius Freeman emerged from his vehicle in the center of Blue Ridge, a quaint North Carolina town nestled in the rolling hills. He didn't look like someone who had spent 20 years climbing the ladder of law enforcement in his worn-out plaid shirt, pants, and sneakers. That was his goal all along. Rejecting the pretense of planned meetings and rehearsed pleasantries, Darius was hell-bent on facing reality directly. There were rumors of malfeasance in his precinct, and as a black man taking charge there, he felt compelled to investigate the agency thoroughly. Seamless integration is the most effective way. The parking area of the precinct was alive with the activity of officers darting in and out. As he took note of the casual conversation and the passing glances, Darius scanned his environment. That nobody paid him any mind was scarcely surprising. Having just announced his position a few days earlier, he had chosen to remain hidden until the official inspection later that morning. With a sharp inhalation, he gripped the brim of his baseball cap. His mission was to eliminate the corruption that was permeating the department, a responsibility he carried with great weight. Even though he had encountered resistance before, he knew this assignment would test him in ways he hadn't imagined. He was already fuming with impatience as he drew near the building and heard distant laughter. With the weight of the atmosphere pressing down on him, Darius forced his way through the precinct's side entrance, blending in with the cacophony of casual conversation and relentless ringing phones. Under the harsh fluorescent lights, the tiled floors sparkled, and the air was heavy with the smell of old coffee. He plodded on, his senses heightened by the electric energy all around him. Around desks, officers huddled, some arguing and yelling, others frantically going over paperwork. He continued unnoticed till he came to a stop next to the break room. "Pay close attention," out of the din came a sharp voice. With a smug expression on his face, a white officer marched toward Darius as he turned around. Scott Whitaker was the name that appeared on his badge. Some others leaned against the wall behind him. Their pupils squinted as they simmered with intensity as they took in every aspect. Whitaker interrupted Darius just as he was about to say something. "Now we find ourselves lost, don't we?" the officer stated with a hint of contempt that this was not a shelter. "Remove that mayhem from this area." The words struck Darius so hard that he couldn't move 1 inch. Feeling conflicted between the impulse to get in immediately and stop the situation from getting worse, he experienced a flash of frustration. Whitaker intensified his voice to make sure everyone was paying attention as he drew nearer before making a decision. "Do you not perceive my words at all? Quickly exit this premises. We do not welcome you here." As the spectators burst out laughing, Darius's pulse raced with frustration as he tightened his jaw. He tried to speak up, but Whitaker drew nearer, his face touching his own. The police officer then had an explosive outburst and spat on Darius's face. It seemed as though time had frozen. Darius felt a lump form in his throat and a trickle of warm drool run down his cheek. An unnerving spirit began to permeate the air as the laughter surrounding him grew louder. As one cop bent over laughing, he slapped his palm on the table and another growled under his breath about how to put the riffraff in their place. Darius was mentally distraught. Even though his ears were pounding with his heartbeat, he kept his composed demeanor. His actions were slow and deliberate as he retrieved a handkerchief from his pocket to dab his face. "Is this how you deal with every customer that walks through the door?" He made his demand with a steady yet charged voice. Whitaker scowled. "Just the people who shouldn't be here." Darius said nothing as the rest of the gang burst into laughing again. Turning around, he marched down the hall, leaving the policeman trailing after. All of the officers were ordered to the briefing room as an intercom went off as he charged toward the main office of the precinct. Here we were, at last. Upon entering the briefing room, officers made a ruckus, with some cradling coffee mugs and others sharing sharp laughs over inside jokes. With an imposing stride, Darius barged in through a side entrance, fiercely clutching a folder with the official seal of the precinct. As the room filled with familiar faces, some of whom were still laughing from the earlier incident, he waited just out of sight to watch. Captain Mitchell, a stocky guy with a graying mustache, stood at the head of the room and ordered everyone to remain silent. "Attention, all present. We must ensure that this is managed properly. We must make an important introduction today." A growing sense of mystery caused the officers to go silent. A smug expression remained on Whitaker's face as he rested his arms crossed and leaned against the wall. The man clearly enjoyed his morning. The air was heavy with unspoken words as Captain Mitchell cleared his throat. "Chief Montgomery resigned last month, as most of you are aware, after what feels like an eternity of waiting for his successor to be named. I am pleased to present you to our new department head, a man with an outstanding track record and audacious plans for the future." With each stride, Darius gained momentum. As he stepped up to the podium, the air became heavier, and everyone had to pay attention. Slamming the folder onto the lectern, he stared sharply around the room. The aggravation was only heightened by his composed attitude. A smirk slipped from Whitaker's lips. His face turned pale as the knowledge sank in. While some of the other cops exchanged nervous glances and mumbled under their breath, others stared at Darius with expressions ranging from shock to rage. Starting with a sharp tone, Darius greeted the morning. "Hello, my name is Darius Freeman. I am assuming the position of Chief of Police for your department effective immediately." The silence was deafening. Whiplash ran down Whitaker's cheeks as he lost his composure. Before moving on to the remainder of the room, Darius kept his intense, charged stare fixated on him. "I wanted to view the department in its natural habitat, free from distractions and pretenses, so I came in my casual attire this morning," Darius said. "It was quite illuminating what I witnessed." A low growl resounded across the audience, but Darius raised a hand to signal that everyone should remain silent. "Throughout my brief tenure, I have observed conduct that is not only unbearably rude, but completely unprofessional as well. Please let me explain something crucial. The toxic ecosystem that has been allowed to flourish here is finally coming to an end." The weight of his remarks pressed down on everyone in the room, creating an atmosphere of dense silence. An atmosphere. With his scowl fixed on the floor, Whitaker shuffled restlessly. Darius stepped up to the platform, his voice sharp yet controlled. "Honor cannot be compromised. This is where our law enforcement efforts revolve around. We fall apart in its absence. We owe it to ourselves and the people we're supposed to help to do this." He let the stillness lengthen as he watched the cops fumble under his piercing gaze. "Some of you laughed at what you saw this morning as another weak person's humiliation. Everyone who walks through those doors deserves respect, no matter what they're wearing or their social standing." The piercing intensity of his words shattered the chamber. Suddenly everyone stood motionless. Darius stood motionless, staring unwaveringly into the void. With each officer acutely aware of the seriousness of his remarks, the room was electric with tension. As perspiration ran down his brow, Whitaker moved once more, his uneasiness obvious. Nevertheless, Darius still had more to say. "I understand that change isn't easy," he said with a forceful but intense voice. "We will not tolerate any behavior that diminishes the value of any individual, be it a civilian, a colleague, or any other person." He stepped down from the platform and made his way purposefully toward the policeman. He exuded an intimidating aura and spoke with an intensity that seemed to be building up. Scott Whitaker's self-assurance crumbled as Darius abruptly stopped a short distance away from him. Whitaker drew back in horror. "You are the embodiment of everything that is wrong with this department," Darius continued as they locked eyes. "Disregarding the badge, the oath, and the community we swore to protect, your act of spitting in my face was more than just an insult. It was an open defiance toward everyone associated with me." "Chief, I was completely confused." Whitaker stumbled. "That was Darius's point," he interjected, his voice resonating. "There was a clear lack of comprehension on your part. This department has broken the trust of the people it is supposed to help because of your impulsive acts, which show that you don't care about the individual standing before you." There was an oppressive calm in the room, and each officer was stiff and motionless. It was electric as Darius turned to the other group members. It wasn't just one person's mistake. What I witnessed permeated the entire establishment. Prejudice and harassment are not only tolerated but encouraged. He drew back to the stage and raised his voice slightly. "From the streets to the boundaries of departments like this one, I have devoted my career to fighting for justice. Although I understand that change is difficult and will take time, I can promise that this precinct will maintain the highest standards of honesty, respect, and responsibility as long as I am in charge." Darius stopped, giving his words time to sink in. He then made the announcement, effective immediately, while giving Captain Mitchell a stern nod. "If you think suspending Scott Whitaker while an internal inquiry takes place is a minor consequence, you should reevaluate your position. This is the first step in a series of changes." Everyone in the room let out a gasp. Whiplash ran down Whitaker's cheeks as he tightened his mouth and ducked from the intense stares of everyone surrounding him. Standing tall and unmoved was Darius. He insisted vigorously that this was not about punishment. "The goal is to set a standard. You have no business being here if you aren't capable of meeting the challenge." Before leaving, he took one more look around the room, making eye contact with every single officer. "We will advance together if you are confident in your ability to grow and develop. However, be assured that I will hold you accountable for all your actions." As the conference came to a close, the air was heavy with silence as the policemen nervously left the room, their usual chit-chat absent. As Whitaker stormed out of the room, his face a whirlwind of shame and wrath, Darius watched from the podium. Looking away, the other officers' expressions betrayed a combination of embarrassment and serious contemplation. Darius returned to his office and, while exhaling heavily, flung himself into his chair at the desk. It was clear to him that this was just the beginning. Persistent, long-held views won't change overnight, and for some people they might stay that way forever. He wasn't at Blue Ridge to make connections, though. He was determined to make a big splash when he got there. On his desk, a phone rang out. A palpable sense of anxiety pervaded the air when Captain Mitchell's voice sounded. "Chief, I must convey," Mitchell commented, his voice trailing off, "that you handled that better than most." "Thank you very much, Captain. The real test, though, starts right now," even though Darius answered. "I need a thorough analysis of Whitaker's background in front of my desk before tomorrow. Everything from grievances to the recording of events." After Mitchell remarked, "You've got it," a hush fell over the room. "On top of that, Chief, I think you positively rattled a couple of them today." Feeling an influx of annoyance, Darius ended the call and dove headfirst into the mountain of paperwork that lay before him. A tense atmosphere descended upon the precinct in the weeks that followed. Whispers of Whitaker's suspension spread across the department, and officers who had previously enjoyed his antics began to avoid him. Darius marched purposefully down the halls, making eye contact with everyone he passed, his presence a constant declaration of dominance. The impact of the move was profound for several officers. An earlier recruit named Officer Morales confronted Darius and revealed that, out of fear of repercussions, Darius had contributed to the corrosive culture. She told the chief, "I need to improve," with conviction. Darius' response was firm and aggressive, but that was all he wanted. Take charge of your own destiny. Still, there were a few who would not budge from their obstinate opposition to change. Whitaker has filed an appeal challenging his suspension, claiming unfair treatment. Accountability was an absolute must, and Darius stayed firm in his belief. Whitaker has a disturbing record of complaints, according to the department's investigation. These include claims of inappropriate statements and excessive force. Darius rejected his appeal, ending the period of disregard for wrongdoing. Despite the progress he had made, Darius continued to feel the weight of the path ahead. Many people had different reactions to his discussions on implicit bias and community relations, but he persisted still. Small victories, like a recruit speaking up or an officer rethinking their approach, added up to big changes. At a neighborhood function one morning, Darius encountered a small boy who approached him with caution. "So, you're the chief, huh?" With piercing astonishment in his eyes, the child demanded. "I am," Darius answered, his features contorted into a grin. The boy's voice betrayed his mounting aggravation as he informed his father that the cops do not care about their family. A tempest was gathering beneath the surface as Darius bowed down and met his gaze. "Even if I can't undo what has already happened, I can tell you that we are working hard to make things better," he replied in a composed manner. "If you ever need anything, you know where to find me, all right?" As a small smile appeared on the boy's face, he nodded in agreement. It was for reasons like these that Darius was so determined to take the position. The precinct had undergone noticeable changes by the conclusion of his first year, though it was far from perfect. Darius fired officers who did not conform and replaced them with new recruits who shared his goal of creating a fair and courteous police force. There was a strong effort to build trust and bridge gaps, and the community, which had been skeptical at first, began to see changes. As the officers stomped out of the precinct one evening, Darius stood in the main corridor staring at them. No longer lighthearted and intended for everyone's enjoyment, the jokes and celebrations felt genuine and inclusive. Even though he knew the challenges ahead, he finally felt hope. There has always been resistance to change, but the rewards have always outweighed the costs. Please share this inspiring story of leadership, courage, and transformation with others who need to hear it. Darius Freeman's story shows that true change starts with one person ready to make a difference in a society where doing the right thing is hard. Follow our channel for more thought-provoking stories that challenge perspectives and encourage action. We share stories about justice, dignity, and human evolution each week. We can raise important voices and develop respectful, understanding communities. Subscribe now. Sometimes our stories change the world.